this is a new one. Listen, if you're not following either shield, you're cheating yourself. Stop doing it. Quick, funny, another shield story for you. Here you go. My man did wall-to-wall coverage of the NFL draft. I got home in time for the draft, and I got my computer open. I'm watching him, and I take my computer outside of my front porch, and here across the street, basketball dribbling. I'm not really tripping off of what it is. As I'm watching his coverage, the kid who's dribbling the basketball comes across the street. It's one of my neighbors, and he comes over and we start talking football. He's asking me if I'm watching draft, and I tell him, it's not at the shield, I'm watching it, whatever. We start talking. This kid's like 13, 14 years old, but he actually knows football. So we're talking, and he's wondering who they're going to draft and who I want them to draft and so on and so forth. Long story short, he watched the draft with me through the Raiders pick, and his mom drives up the street. He runs across the street. I hear him yelling to his mom, "Hey, Mom." She's like, "What?" She's like, "I was locked out." So he was locked out for about 45 minutes, and I was able to meet him. He's a new kid in the neighborhood. I was able to meet him, hang out with him, get to know him. And night, good on you. You were able to entertain the kid while he was locked out of the house. And praise it to you for doing the wall-to-wall coverage on the draft. I didn't bother watching TV, just sat there with you watching it, just like you. And like you, I wanted them to pick Leonard Williams, but they didn't. Can't be mad at the pick they made. It's certainly understandable, and it was an either-or pick. Carr certainly needed that weapon, and let's hope that we can now have our next great Raider receiver. He seems like a humble, hard-working guy. I've seen people make comments about him not smiling and so on and so forth. Who cares? No one should care. I want him to go play football for us. He wants to play football. Let him go do what he does. Get open, catch the ball, make plays, help this offense, help Derek Carr, develop into the quarterback that I think he can be. I think he can be an outstanding quarterback. So, like I said, good on them for getting him. As far as the Leonard Williams pick, something interesting, or the fact that they didn't pick Leonard Williams, something that I thought was really interesting was I'm watching the press conference that Reggie did with Del Rio, and the phrase that I heard Reggie say was that Cooper was high on the draft board. I made a note of that because past drafts, Reggie always crows about his picks, especially his first pick, and says he was our guy. He was number one on our draft board. He was our guy. He was the guy. He was the guy I wanted. I got the guy I wanted. I got my player. I got the guy I wanted. He didn't say that about Cooper. He said he was high on the draft board. Okay. Now, what this tells me, and I've talked about this in another video, one of the Raider management videos, is the power, the way that it's distributed within the organization. Of course, Mark Davis is the owner of the team, and so he's number one. But he's been more or less, to this point, a hands-off owner. But it's clear that he's, over time become more and more involved with the operations of the team in terms of who they pick, who they sign, and so forth. And so related to this year's first pick, I think that there was a real debate within the organization between picking Leonard Williams and picking Cooper. And my supposition is that Reggie wanted Williams, and someone else, Jack Del Rio probably, wanted Cooper. Now maybe Mark Davis wanted Cooper, but clearly in the end, Mark Davis came down on the side of Cooper. And like I said, I only believe this because of the things that I've stated, because of things that I've seen. We know when Reggie gets his guy, he'll tell us all about it, including the disastrous bonehead coach he picked, who he kept referring to as my guy, my guy, my guy. I haven't heard him say that about Cooper. Another thing I want to talk about is players and coaching, because my philosophy is that coaching matters, and especially as it relates to this team. We've seen what a bad coach can do with the team, and now we have what I think will be a very good coach. I'm going to see what he can do with the team. I was asked the question, what players on the roster will get better regardless of the coaching? And I pondered it for a long time, and I really racked my brain about it. And in the end, I came to a couple of conclusions. One is, I'm not even sure what that would look like. I'm not aware of any player who I've seen who, despite the coaching, became a better player. And part of what I mean by that is the coaching is so important, and that the coach is in fact the decision maker, that you can have a player and you will not have any idea how good he is if he does not get an opportunity. And good example with the Raiders specifically is Latavius Murray. Now, they picked him, and when you pick players, you pick them because you think they can fill a need. So they picked him and had him in a situation where they had veteran running backs playing ahead of him who were not producing. In particular, I mean Maurice Jones-Drew. The Raiders had the worst running game since the 1940s, and Jones-Drew was clearly the worst running back among their running backs, and he was still getting playing time while Murray was not getting any touches. Now, when Murray got in the game, we certainly saw what he could do, and that not only was he better than Drew, he was better than the other three running backs that they had on their roster. And he should have been getting playing time. The question is, at what point should he be getting playing time? We all could see when he got in the game what his value to the team, and that he was a dynamic running back, and that given the lack of success the other two veterans had, and the fact that Reese apparently is constantly the odd man out, and I'll get back to that in a minute, hopefully if I remember. And given that Reese is the odd man out, he's not going to get his touches. Murray's languishing on the bench. That's coaching. That's coaching. Situations, and I'll use a couple of different running backs. One of them is Dwayne Thomas. Many people know who he is. He was a running back who played for Dallas. This is before Tony Dorsett. And Dwayne Thomas was the Richard Sherman of his day. He was someone who was a running back who was considered moody. He was a different type of character, and definitely did not fit in with what Tom Landry wanted to do. Tom Landry was a longtime coach of the Cowboys. They were the first team to use computer analysis to break down tendencies of teams. And if you've ever seen the movie North Dallas 40, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That's who that team portrayed. If you haven't seen North Dallas 40, do yourself a favor, watch it. It's one of the best, probably the best movie about what football is really like inside the game that's ever been made. Any Given Sunday is a really good movie too, but North Dallas 40 movie came out, I guess, in the early 80s, late 70s. It's a really good movie, at any rate. But Dwayne Thomas was kind of like Richard Sherman, didn't like the media, didn't like a lot of the stuff that surrounded football, was a great player, really fast, and a power back. And he was famous for the quote, I believe it was in 71, 72, the Cowboys are playing in the Super Bowl, and in the media coverage that goes on around it, he was doing a press conference or whatever, and the reporters are talking about what a big game it was and how important it was. And Dwayne Thomas's quote was, "If the Super Bowl is so important, then how come they play it every year?" So that's the type of personality he had. But it's great back then to trade him because he just didn't fit in. Coaching. If you draft a player to be in your team and you don't know who he is or what he can do, why did you draft him? Why is he there? Another example, Tony Dorsett, who was the running back with Dallas before before Emmitt Smith. Similar story with Tony Dorsett as with Napoleon Kaufman. If you're a Raider fan, you don't know who Napoleon Kaufman is, shame on you. Go back and watch some highlights. Napoleon Kaufman was great. Dynamic, very fast running back. Both he and Tony Dorsett were in the same situation where when they came to the team, the blocking philosophy did not allow for their particular talents. And part of what I mean by that is they were so quick when they got the ball that they were at the line and into the hole before the hole was there. And I think what happened in both cases, I know this is what happened to Tony Dorsett, but I'm pretty sure this is what happened with Napoleon Kaufman too, was that rather than trying to constantly browbeat them or get them to change their running style, they made the offensive linemen move quicker. Rather than on a 3 count, here's your hole. Look, guys, this guy behind you is dynamic. He's fast. He's going to hit this hole fast. Block faster. Make him a quicker hole. Napoleon Kaufman was so fast that when he played Pee Wee football, his coach told the players, when we run the sweep and Napoleon gets to the outside, take a knee. He told the players to take a knee because he didn't want any holding calls, and he knew Napoleon would be able to get outside and make yardage, and he didn't, once he got outside, he didn't need to block. He was going to shake whoever was out there. And this is the type of thing that coaching does. If you have a player who has a special talent, you have to adapt to what they're doing. If you've been watching the Raiders for the last few years, and hopefully everyone who watches my videos is a real Raider fan and didn't just wake up yesterday, then you'll remember the zone blocking scene that Knapp brought in that was disastrous and foolish. You have a running back who's run for over 1,000 yards. He's dynamic. He averages about 5 yards a carry. So that rather than come in and try to accent what he does, you're going to bring in a bunch of players and change what he does. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, and it hurt the team, and it set the team back. Another player, Lawrence Taylor. When Lawrence Taylor came to the Giants, Lawrence Taylor was a linebacker for the Giants when Bill Parcells was there, won Super Bowls with him. Lawrence Taylor was called by John Madden the greatest defensive player who ever played the game. John Madden said it good enough for me. When Lawrence Taylor came to the Giants in the first practices they had, he sometimes was out of position. He sometimes would blitz when he was supposed to be in coverage. But he was so good at it and he was so dynamic that Lawrence Taylor would normally and regularly beat any one-on-one block that he had and could not be blocked by a running back. He was so good that Bill Parcells, a defensive-minded coach, and this is when Bill Belichick was there as their defensive coordinator, he was so good that the Giants changed their defense to accommodate what he can do. So even a coach as rigid and defensive-oriented as Bill Parcells will give a player with that level of talent. Smart coach says, great player does great things. He's better than anybody else in the field. Let's build this around him. Rather than trying to fit him into a square peg, we're gonna make this defense around him. We're gonna take what we do and shape around this special talent. Now, unless the Raiders have a player on their roster who is so monumentally good that it makes a shift in the thinking of the coaching staff, and once again, it takes a good coach to do that. A bad coach is not going to do that. Then takes coaching. Coaching has many aspects. At the level of professional players, there's still an element of personality in terms of dealing with people that comes in, personality management that comes into that, although they're all being paid to be there. So if the coach has good strategy, good game plan, and has the players who can actually do the things that he expects them to do, then a lot of those other things shouldn't be involved in it. It's only when you're dealing with young players that all that other stuff comes into it. Although players are still human beings, and John Madden's philosophy when he was a coach was to make very few rules. Be on time, pay attention when I'm talking, and play like hell when I say so. Those sound like good rules to me. Of course, in the NFL of today, you've got a whole bunch of other stuff that comes into it. Unfortunately, in my opinion, because some of the stuff that they do that has to do with trying to get into players' lives, we as fans, we love football, we love the NFL, and we root for our team, we root for players. But at the end of the day, for those players, this is a job, this is a livelihood, this is the way that they feed their families, this is the way that they help their family do better. This is how they support the people who they care about in their lives. And whether someone thinks that they have the right attitude and the right this and the right that, shouldn't really enter into it. If they show up and they perform, that's good enough for me. Show up and do what we ask you to do. Show up and go do the best that you can do with your talent. That should be enough. And the whole Marshawn Lynch thing, wow. If I had Marshawn Lynch on my team, I'd be happy to have him. Because that's a great player. Notwithstanding that nonsense that went on in the Super Bowl, which is a whole other story about what the league really is sometimes, because that was ridiculous. I hope I answered the question about coaching. Coaching matters, and like I said, I came to the conclusion that players don't get better without good coaching. You can have a player who works hard now off season and gets stronger, and works on his agility and works on his conditioning and works on his route running or block or whatever those things might be. There are individual attributes and talents that the player can work on, but unless he has coaching, unless that player has coaching that provides him an avenue to display that, then who knows if that player got better or not. And we certainly have enough young players on this team that need coaching. And whether it's about technique, whether it's about good information for them about conditioning and nutrition and proper sleep and all these kind of things, it's all needed. This is overall a very young team, and frankly, it's going to continue to be a young team for some time to come, as the philosophy has been to build through the draft, which means you're going to be, for the next few years, it's all, well, for the next number of years, as long as Reggie's there, as long as Reggie has the power and authority to be the one who make those decisions, they're going to be a younger team that's continually developing their own players, as opposed to a team that signs a lot of free agents who they expect to be with the team and actually contribute. They want homegrown talent. Back again to Reggie and the power that he has within the team. It's clear to me for some other things too, because when they were talking, when one of the press conferences were Reggie McKenzie and Jack Del Rio were talking, they were talking about the process, talking a little bit about the process they went to come to the conclusion of who was going to be on the team and the philosophy they had. Unfortunately, in my eyes, this year with Jack Del Rio coming in, it's again that thing where they went from picking the players that Reggie thought would go together to make a team, but now you have Jack Del Rio's philosophy, which undoubtedly is not going to be exactly the same as Reggie's. We can only hope that they mesh to the degree that they are that Reggie's vision for the type of players, talent-wise and personality-wise, in the team matches Del Rio's, because Reggie has already brought a bunch of people. We already know we have a bunch of young players on this team that Reggie brought in, and hopefully Jack and his staff can see what Reggie saw in those players so that they can develop them, whether it be TJ Carey or Meta Watson, C.L. Moore. No, you guys know the players we have. Yeah. Also, another little interesting thing, and please comment on this, guys. Leave comments on this. With the number of linebackers, and we have a lot of guys who are rush linebackers, guys who presumably could play end or stand-up linebacker in a 3-4. What do you think about that? The Raiders haven't talked about it, and they've been kind of coy about it. I saw now the Shield was talking about the conference call they have with season ticket holders, where they were being coy about what offense they're going to play, what defense they're going to play, and he didn't directly talk about this, but it's something that I've wondered about, especially like I said with the number of linebackers they brought in, whether they're going to play 3-4, and maybe they're going to play a hybrid. Maybe they'll play a 4-3 and a 3-4. Who knows? Like I said, they brought in a lot of linebackers, and I would just like some feedback from you guys on what you guys think about that. The other thing related to Reggie was James Jones and the fact that he was released. Now, clearly, when he was signed, it was considered a coup and a big deal that they got James Jones. He was ex-Packer wide receiver, had a relationship with Reggie. They brought him in. He wasn't as productive as he could have been, but the offense wasn't as productive as it could have been. So, we certainly can't lay that all at his feet. But he was certainly productive and looked like he had a future with the Raiders. Also, side note, he was a local guy. And they released him. Now, what did that say about Reggie's position in the organization? As certainly he's in a position now of put up or shut up, I think, as far as Mark Davis goes. But what does that say about the power he has in the organization, and was that really and solely his decision to release James Jones? He was the most veteran receiver on the team, and apparently wide receiver was a need, given that they picked a wide receiver first, a guy who they planned to be a star and the A1 receiver for Derek Carr, and then they released James Jones. I thought that was interesting. Let me know what you guys think. Also, on a much more heavy note, a player who probably none of you guys ever saw play, Marv Hubbard, is a great running back for the Raiders back in the days when they won all the time, back when they went into people's homes and played at home with a sack of quarters and just beat the hell out of people and just brutalized people and won games. Marv Hubbard passed away. So condolences to his family, to all of Raider Nation. Marv Hubbard was a real Raider, tough guy. And I actually got the chance to meet him once the year before the Raiders came back to Oakland. They had an event, and there were a bunch of ex-Raider players there, and I got to meet him, and he was just walking around with a drink in his hand, signing autographs, talking to people. Just a real nice guy. Not like I knew him, deeply personally, but when you meet somebody and they're nice to you, good enough. He was just a nice guy to me. So it made me sad when I heard that. And he actually, he was not that older guy. So just sad about that a little bit. So condolences to his family. Once a Raider, always a Raider. Side note, just so you guys know, if you've watched my other videos, I only make videos when I feel like I have something to say. And like I said, as far as a lot of the other stuff, there are so many other Raider vloggers out there who do a great job of covering the day-to-day, including Mikey Raider. What's up, Mikey? For you, this is when I make these videos, it's for me, it's for you guys. And when you comment on the videos, it's great. And thus far, I've responded back to all the comments on the videos. So feel free to comment. I answer questions if you have them when I can, or at least give my perspective on stuff. Um, but really, when you guys comment, that kind of makes my day, and that's kind of what matters to me. Uh, I don't need a whole bunch of subscribers. Um, I just need guys who are real Raider fans, real football fans, really love the team. So I appreciate all the comments. Keep watching. I'll keep making them. Peace.